Old man, none of this belongs to you. Those were the exact words my daughter-in-law Jessica said to me as I was driving to the lawyer's office to hear my son's will. I'm Harold Thompson. I'm 72 years old. And those words hit me like a punch to the gut from someone I thought was family. Listen to this story until the end, because what happened next will shock you as much as it shocked me. And when you're done listening, tell me what you think and what city you're listening from, because I need to know I'm not crazy, that what I did was right. Right now I'm sitting in my living room, the same living room where my son David used to play with his toy cars when he was 5 years old, the same living room where he told me he was getting married to Jessica 8 years ago, the same living room where he brought my grandson Tommy for the first time, a tiny baby who looked just like David did when he was born. But 3 weeks ago, this living room became the place where I realized that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest. My son David died in a car accident on March 15th. He was 34 years old, married to Jessica for 8 years, and father to my 6-year-old grandson Tommy. David worked as an electrical engineer for a construction company, made good money, owned a beautiful house in the suburbs, and had built what I thought was a happy life. I raised David by myself after his mother, my wife Margaret, died of cancer when he was 12. Those were the hardest years of my life, working double shifts at the steel mill to pay for everything, making sure David had clothes, food, school supplies, and most importantly, love. I never remarried because I wanted to focus all my energy on raising my son right. David was a good kid. He got good grades, never got in trouble, went to college on a partial scholarship that I helped supplement by working overtime for 4 years. When he graduated with his engineering degree, I was the proudest father in the world. When he got his first job, when he bought his first house, when he married Jessica, when Tommy was born, every milestone filled my heart with joy. Jessica seemed like a nice girl when David first brought her home. She was 26, worked as a dental hygienist, came from a middle-class family. She was polite to me, seemed to love David, and I thought she would be a good wife for my son. When they got married, I welcomed her into our family with open arms. But over the years, I started noticing small things. Jessica would make comments about how David spent too much time with me. She would roll her eyes when David invited me to family dinners. She would change the subject when David talked about memories of his childhood or his mother. Little things that individually didn't mean much, but together painted a picture of someone who saw me as an inconvenience. Still, I kept my mouth shut, because I didn't want to cause problems in David's marriage. I figured as long as David was happy, and I could see my grandson regularly, I could tolerate Jessica's attitude. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening. David was driving home from work when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit him head-on. He died instantly. The call came at 11:30 p.m., and it was Jessica who called me. "Harold," she said, her voice shaking, "there's been an accident. David is gone." I don't remember much about the next few days. The funeral arrangements, the service, the burial, it all passed in a blur of grief and disbelief. My son, my only child, the person I had devoted my entire life to raising, was gone at 34 years old. During those first days after the funeral, Jessica seemed genuinely grief-stricken. She cried. She leaned on me for support. She let me spend time with Tommy. I thought that maybe losing David would bring us closer together, that we would find comfort in each other as the two people who loved him most. I was wrong. A week after the funeral, Jessica called me. "Harold, David's lawyer wants to read the will next Tuesday. Can you be there at 2 p.m.? "Of course," I said. "Do you know what's in it?" "Not really. David handled all the financial stuff. I just know he had life insurance and some investments." "Well, I'm sure he took care of you and Tommy." "I hope so. I don't know how I'm going to manage everything on my own." That Tuesday, I drove to the lawyer's office in downtown. It was a 45-minute drive from my house, and Jessica had offered to pick me up, which I thought was thoughtful. She arrived at my house at 1 p.m. in David's SUV, a vehicle that still smelled like his cologne, and had his coffee mug in the cup holder. As we drove, we made small talk about Tommy, about how he was adjusting to his father's death, about practical matters like school and daycare. But about 20 minutes into the drive, Jessica's tone changed. "Harold, I need to prepare you for something." "What do you mean?" "About the will. About David's assets." "What about them?" David and I talked about this before he died, about what would happen to his things if something happened to him. Okay, Harold, you need to understand that David was my husband. Tommy is my son. David's house is my house. His money is my money. His decisions were our decisions. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I tried to stay calm. Jessica, I'm not expecting anything from David's estate. I just want to know that you and Tommy are taken care of. Good, because that's exactly what David wanted. He wanted to make sure his wife and son were secure. Of course he did. That's what any good father and husband would want. Harold, I'm telling you this because I don't want you to get any ideas about David's things. The house, the cars, the bank accounts, the investments. It's all mine and Tommy's now. Jessica, why are you telling me this? I never said I wanted any of David's things. I'm just making sure we understand each other. And then, as we pulled into the parking lot of the lawyer's office, she said the words that changed everything. Old man, none of this belongs to you. I sat in that passenger seat for a moment, stunned. This woman who I had welcomed into my family, who I had treated like a daughter, who I had supported through her grief, had just called me old man and made it clear that she saw me as some kind of threat to her inheritance. Jessica, I said quietly, I think you misunderstand my intentions. Do I? Because I've seen how you look at David's house when you visit. I've seen how you ask questions about his job, his salary, his investments. I ask about those things because I care about my son's life, not because I want his money. Well, now you know none of it is yours. We walked into the lawyer's office in silence. The lawyer, Mr. Peterson, was a man in his 50s who had handled David's legal affairs for several years. He greeted us with the appropriate solemnity and led us into a conference room. I'm sorry for your loss, he said. David was a good man, and I know this is a difficult time for both of you. Thank you, Jessica said. Can we just get this over with? I need to pick up Tommy from daycare. Mr. Peterson opened a folder and pulled out several documents. David's will is fairly straightforward. He updated it 2 years ago after Tommy was born. Let me read the relevant sections. He cleared his throat and began, I, David Michael Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby make this my last will and testament. To my beloved wife, Jessica, I leave our family home at 1247 Maple Street, along with all furnishings and personal property contained therein. I also leave her my checking and savings accounts, totaling approximately $85,000, and my 401k retirement account, valued at approximately $120,000. Jessica nodded, looking satisfied. To my son, Thomas David Thompson, I establish a trust fund to be managed by his mother, Jessica, until he reaches the age of 25. This trust shall be funded by my life insurance policy in the amount of $300,000, as well as my investment portfolio, currently valued at approximately $180,000. Again, Jessica nodded. And finally, Mr. Peterson continued, to my father, Harold Thompson, who sacrificed everything to raise me after my mother's death, who worked multiple jobs to put me through college, and who has been the most important person in my life. I felt my heart start to race. David had remembered me in his will. I leave my workshop and all tools contained therein, my collection of vintage car parts, my baseball card collection, and most importantly, a letter I wrote specifically for him. Mr. Peterson reached into the folder and pulled out an envelope with my name written on it in David's handwriting. Jessica's face had gone pale. That's it? She asked. That's the extent of the bequests, yes. There are also instructions about Tommy's education and some specific wishes about funeral arrangements, but those are the main distributions. So Harold gets some old tools and baseball cards? Jessica, I said, that's more than enough. Those things have sentimental value. But I could see the wheels turning in Jessica's head. She was calculating the value of everything, making sure she got the lion's share. Mr. Peterson handed me the envelope. David specifically requested that you read this letter in private, Harold. He said it was very important. I took the envelope with shaking hands. Just holding something that David had touched, that he had written specifically for me, brought tears to my eyes. There are a few more administrative details to discuss, Mr. Peterson said, but the main reading is complete. Jessica, you'll need to come back next week to sign some paperwork for the house transfer and the bank accounts. Fine, Jessica said curtly. Harold, are you ready to go? The drive back to my house was tense. Jessica didn't say a word for the first 20 minutes, but I could feel her anger radiating from the driver's seat. Finally, she spoke. I hope you're happy. What do you mean? Getting David to leave you things in his will. I hope you're satisfied. Jessica, I had no idea David left me anything. And what he left me are just personal items with sentimental value. Those tools are worth money, Harold. That workshop has thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I don't care about the money value. I care about the fact that my son thought enough of me to leave me something that mattered to him. Well, don't get too attached to any of it. What do you mean? I mean that Tommy is going to need money for college, for his future. If those tools and that workshop are worth money, maybe they should be sold and the money put into Tommy's trust fund. I felt my blood pressure rising. Jessica, David specifically left those things to me. They're mine now. We'll see about that. When we got to my house, I got out of the car without saying goodbye. Jessica drove off without a word. I went inside and sat in my living room holding David's letter. I was afraid to open it, afraid of what it might say, afraid that reading it would make David's death feel even more final. But finally I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. It was 3 pages long, written in David's careful handwriting. Dear Dad, it began, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for leaving you alone. Sorry for not being there to take care of you in your old age like you took care of me when I was young. I had to stop reading because the tears were making it hard to see the words. Dad, I want you to know that everything good in my life came from you. The work ethic that got me through college, the values that made me a good husband and father, the strength that helped me build a successful career. All of that came from watching you, learning from you, trying to be half the man you are. I wiped my eyes and continued reading. I know Jessica doesn't always treat you the way she should. I know she sometimes makes you feel unwelcome in our home. I've talked to her about it, but she comes from a different kind of family than we do. She doesn't understand the bond between a father and son who went through what we went through together. David had noticed. He had seen how Jessica treated me. Dad, I'm leaving you my workshop because that's where you taught me how to fix things, how to work with my hands, how to solve problems. Every time I use those tools, I think about the Saturday mornings we spent together when I was a kid, learning how to change oil, fix bicycles, build birdhouses for Mum's garden. More tears. I remembered those Saturday mornings. They were some of the best times of my life. I'm leaving you my baseball card collection because you're the one who got me interested in baseball, who took me to my first game, who taught me about statistics and strategy and the history of the sport. Those cards represent all the hours we spent together talking about the game we both love. And Dad, I'm leaving you these things because I want you to have something to remember me by, something that represents our relationship, our shared interests, our love for each other. Jessica will have the house and the money, and that's right because she's my wife and Tommy's mother. But you should have something too, something that's just for you. I was sobbing now, but I kept reading. Dad, I need to ask you for something. I need you to watch out for Tommy. Not just financially, Jessica will handle that, but I need you to be the grandfather to him, that you were a father to me. I need you to teach him the things you taught me. I need you to love him the way you loved me. Jessica might try to keep Tommy away from you sometimes. She might think that her family is enough, that Tommy doesn't need his grandfather. But Dad, Tommy needs you. He needs to know where he comes from, who his father was, what kind of man he should try to become. Only you can teach him those things. Please don't let Jessica push you out of Tommy's life. Fight for your relationship with your grandson. He's going to need you, especially as he gets older and starts asking questions about his father. The letter went on for another page, talking about specific memories, specific lessons David wanted me to pass on to Tommy, specific hopes he had for his son's future. And then, at the end, David wrote something that broke my heart and filled it with determination at the same time. Dad, you gave up everything for me when Mom died. You worked yourself to the bone to make sure I had everything I needed. You sacrificed your own happiness, your own future, your own dreams to make sure I could achieve mine. I can never repay that debt, but I can make sure that Tommy knows what kind of man his grandfather is, what kind of father you were to me, and what kind of legacy you've built. I love you, Dad. Thank you for everything. Take care of my boy. I sat in my living room for hours after reading that letter, crying, remembering, and thinking about what David had asked me to do. The next day, I called Jessica. "I'd like to come see Tommy this weekend," I said. "Harold, I don't think that's a good idea right now." "Why not?" "Tommy is still adjusting to his father's death. Having too many people around is confusing for him." "Jessica, I'm not people. I'm his grandfather." "I know, but I think it's better if we keep things simple for a while." "How long is a while?" "I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month." "Jessica, Tommy needs his family right now. He needs people who love him." "He has family. He has me and my parents and my sister." "What about David's family? What about me?" "Harold, I'm trying to do what's best for my son." "Our grandson, Jessica. Tommy is our grandson. He's my son first." I could feel the conversation going nowhere, so I tried a different approach. "Jessica, can I at least come get the things David left me, the tools and the baseball cards?" There was a long pause. "Actually, Harold, I've been thinking about that." "Thinking about what?" "About whether it's really appropriate for you to take those things right now." "What do you mean?" "David left them to me in his will." "I know, but Tommy might want those things someday. The tools especially. David might have wanted Tommy to have them when he's older." "Jessica, if David wanted Tommy to have them, he would have left them to Tommy." "Maybe he didn't think about it that way. Maybe he assumed I would make sure Tommy got his father's things." "Jessica, those tools are mine now. David specifically left them to me." "We'll see, Harold. I need to think about what's best for Tommy." She hung up before I could respond. Over the next 2 weeks, I called Jessica several times, asking to see Tommy and to collect the things David had left me. Each time she had a different excuse. Tommy was sick. Tommy was having a hard day. She was busy with paperwork. She was cleaning out David's things and didn't want me to see the house in disarray. Finally, I decided to just show up. I drove to David's house on a Saturday morning, knowing that Tommy would be home and awake. When I rang the doorbell, Tommy answered. "Grandpa Harold," he shouted, and threw his arms around my legs. "Hey, buddy," I said, picking him up. "I missed you." "I missed you too. Mummy said you were busy." "Mummy said I was busy." "Yeah, she said you had important things to do and couldn't come see me." Before I could respond, Jessica appeared in the doorway. "Harold, what are you doing here?" "I came to see my grandson and to get the things David left me." "I told you I wasn't ready for that yet. Jessica, it's been 3 weeks since the will reading. How much more time do you need?" "Tommy, go to your room and play," Jessica said. "But I want to stay with Grandpa Harold." "Go to your room, Tommy. Now." Tommy looked confused and hurt, but he obeyed his mother. "Jessica, why are you keeping me away from Tommy?" "I'm not keeping you away. I'm just trying to establish some boundaries." "What kind of boundaries?" "Harold, David is gone. Our connection to each other was through him. Now that he's not here anymore, I need to focus on building a life for me and Tommy. I'm Tommy's grandfather. I'm part of his life whether David is here or not." "That's debatable." "What do you mean, it's debatable?" "I mean that legally. You have no rights to Tommy. I'm his mother, and I decide who he spends time with." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Jessica, I've been in Tommy's life since the day he was born. I love him and he loves me." "I know, but things change. People move on." "Are you planning to move on from me?" "I'm planning to do what's best for my son." "And you don't think having a relationship with his grandfather is what's best for him?" "I think having too many people trying to influence him might be confusing." "Jessica, I'm not trying to influence him. I'm trying to love him." "Harold, I think it's best if you leave now." "What about the things David left me?" "I'm still thinking about that." "There's nothing to think about. They're mine. Harold, please leave or I'll call the police." I stood there for a moment, shocked that this conversation had escalated to threats of police involvement. "Fine," I said, "but this isn't over, Jessica. Tommy is my grandson, and those tools are mine. David wanted both of those things, and I'm not going to let you take them away from me." I drove home angry and heartbroken. Not only was I grieving the loss of my son, but now I was facing the possibility of losing my grandson too. That night, I called my lawyer, Robert Martinez. Robert had handled my affairs for years, including my own will and some property transactions. "Robert, I need your advice about something." I explained the whole situation. David's death, the will reading, Jessica's behavior, her threats to keep Tommy away from me. "Harold, I'm sorry you're going through this. Losing a child is the worst thing that can happen to a parent, and having family conflicts on top of that makes it even harder. What are my rights, Robert? Can she really keep me away from Tommy? Unfortunately, grandparents' rights are limited in this state. If the custodial parent, in this case Jessica, doesn't want you to have contact with Tommy, it's very difficult to force the issue legally. But I've been in his life since he was born. Doesn't that count for something? It counts morally, Harold, but not necessarily legally. The courts generally defer to the wishes of the surviving parent unless there's evidence of abuse or neglect. And what about the things David left me in his will? That's different. If David's will specifically leaves those items to you, Jessica can't legally keep them from you. The will is a binding legal document. So what should I do? About Tommy, I'd suggest trying to work things out with Jessica first, maybe family counseling or mediation. Going to court should be a last resort, and even then the outcome is uncertain. And about the tools and baseball cards, those you can demand. If she won't give them to you voluntarily, we can send her a legal letter requiring her to turn them over. I don't want to have to threaten legal action against my daughter-in-law. I understand, Harold, but sometimes people need to understand that there are consequences for their actions. Over the next week, I tried calling Jessica several more times. She either didn't answer or gave me the same excuses about why I couldn't see Tommy or collect my inheritance. Finally, I asked Robert to send her a letter. The letter was formal but polite, explaining that David's will clearly left certain items to me and requesting that Jessica make those items available for pickup within 10 days. 3 days after the letter was sent, Jessica called me. "Harold, I got a letter from your lawyer." "Yes, I asked him to send it. I can't believe you're threatening to sue me." "I'm not threatening to sue you, Jessica. I'm asking for what's legally mine." "Those tools belong to David. They should stay in David's house for Tommy." "Jessica, David specifically left them to me. If he wanted Tommy to have them, he would have left them to Tommy. Maybe David made a mistake." "David didn't make mistakes about things that mattered to him. He thought carefully about that will. Harold, I'm trying to preserve David's memory for Tommy. Having his father's tools in the house helps Tommy feel connected to his dad." "Jessica, Tommy can feel connected to his dad by spending time with me, by hearing stories about David's childhood, by learning about the man David was before he became Tommy's father. That's not the same thing." "You're right. It's not the same thing. It's better. Tools can break or get lost. Memories and relationships last forever. Harold, I don't want to fight with you." "Then don't fight with me. Let me see Tommy, and give me the things David left me. I need more time to think about it." "Jessica, you've had a month to think about it. How much more time do you need?" "I don't know." "Well, my lawyer's letter gives you 10 days to make the tools available. That should be enough time to think." She hung up without saying goodbye. 5 days later, I got a call from Robert. "Harold, I heard from Jessica's lawyer." "Jessica hired a lawyer?" "Apparently so. And Harold, there's something you need to know." "What?" "Jessica is claiming that David's will is invalid." "What do you mean, invalid?" "She's claiming that David was under duress when he signed it, that he wasn't of sound mind, that the will doesn't reflect his true wishes." "That's ridiculous. David updated that will 2 years ago, long before he died. He was perfectly healthy and mentally competent." "I know, Harold, but she's also claiming that you exerted undue influence over David to get him to leave you those items." "Undue influence? I didn't even know David was leaving me anything until the will was read." "I believe you, Harold, but Jessica is making these claims to try to invalidate the parts of the will that benefit you." "Can she do that?" "She can try. It will be expensive and time-consuming, and she probably won't succeed, but she can make the process very difficult." "Why would she do this? The tools and baseball cards aren't worth that much money." "Harold, I don't think this is really about the tools and baseball cards." "What do you think it's about?" "I think Jessica sees you as a threat to her control over Tommy's life. She wants to cut all ties with David's family so she can raise Tommy however she wants, without any input or influence from you. So she's using the will contest as a way to push me out completely. That's my guess. If she can tie up your inheritance in legal proceedings for months or years, she's hoping you'll eventually give up and go away." "I'm not going away, Robert. Tommy is my grandson." "I know, Harold, but you need to understand that this is going to be a long, expensive, emotionally draining fight." "I don't care. David asked me to watch out for Tommy, and that's what I'm going to do." The next few months were the hardest of my life. Not only was I dealing with grief over losing David, but I was also fighting a legal battle with Jessica and being kept away from Tommy. Jessica's lawyer filed papers challenging the will, claiming that David had been depressed and not thinking clearly when he updated it. They claimed that I had manipulated David into leaving me the tools and baseball cards, even though I had no idea he was doing so. The legal process was slow and expensive. I had to hire a probate attorney, provide depositions, gather evidence of David's mental state when he signed the will. It was exhausting and heartbreaking. Meanwhile, Jessica had effectively cut off all contact between me and Tommy. When I tried to call, she wouldn't let me speak to him. When I tried to visit, she wouldn't answer the door. When I sent Tommy birthday cards and Christmas presents, I never knew if he received them. 6 months after David's death, I was sitting in my lawyer's office feeling defeated. Robert, how much longer is this going to take? Probably another 6 months, maybe more. Jessica's lawyer is dragging out every procedure, requesting every possible document, challenging every piece of evidence. And what are our chances of winning? Good, Harold. David's will is solid, and there's no real evidence that he was incompetent or under duress. But Jessica's strategy isn't really to win. What do you mean? Her strategy is to make this so expensive and time-consuming that you give up. She's hoping you'll decide it's not worth the fight. The tools and baseball cards aren't worth this much money and effort. No, they're not, but your relationship with Tommy is. I haven't seen Tommy in 6 months, Robert. He probably doesn't even remember me. Harold, Tommy is 6 years old. He remembers you. And when he gets older, he's going to start asking questions about his father's family. What if Jessica has poisoned him against me by then? Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Tommy will figure out the truth eventually. I hope you're right. That night I was sitting in my living room looking at pictures of Tommy when my phone rang. The caller ID showed David's old number. Hello? Grandpa Harold? It was Tommy's voice, small and scared. Tommy? Buddy, is that you? Yes. Grandpa Harold, I miss you. I miss you too, Tommy. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm at home. Mommy is in the shower. I wanted to call you. Tommy, how did you know my phone number? Daddy taught me. He said I should always know your number in case I needed you. My heart broke and swelled at the same time. Tommy, are you okay? Is everything all right? I'm sad, Grandpa Harold. I miss Daddy, and I miss you. I miss you too, buddy. I've been trying to see you, but Mommy says I can't. Why can't you see me? I don't know, Tommy. Grown-ups sometimes have disagreements. Grandpa Harold, will you come to my school play? It's next Friday at 7 o'clock. I'm playing a tree. Tommy, I would love to come to your school play, but I need to ask Mommy first. Mommy says you don't want to see me anymore. That's not true, Tommy. I want to see you more than anything in the world. Then why don't you come see me? It's complicated, buddy, but I'm working on it, okay? Okay. Grandpa Harold, I have to go. I hear Mommy getting out of the shower. Tommy, I love you. I love you too, Grandpa Harold. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, my heart racing. Tommy had called me. He missed me. He wanted me at his school play. And Jessica had been telling him that I didn't want to see him anymore. The next morning I called Robert. Robert, I got a call from Tommy last night. I told him about the conversation, about the school play, about Jessica telling Tommy that I didn't want to see him. Harold, this changes things. If Jessica is telling Tommy that you don't want to see him, that could be considered parental alienation. What's parental alienation? It's when one parent deliberately tries to damage the child's relationship with another family member by lying or manipulating the child's feelings. Is that illegal? It's not criminal, but it's something family courts take very seriously. If we can prove that Jessica is deliberately trying to alienate Tommy from you, it could help our case for grandparents' rights. What should I do about the school play? Go to it. It's a public event at a public school. Jessica can't legally keep you from attending. What if she makes a scene? Let her. If she makes a scene at her son's school play because his grandfather showed up, that will only make her look bad. That Friday, I drove to Tommy's elementary school. The play was in the gymnasium, and there were probably 200 people there. Parents, grandparents, siblings, friends. I found a seat in the back and waited for the play to start. About 10 minutes before it began, I saw Jessica walk in with her parents. She was scanning the crowd, probably looking to see if I was there. When she spotted me, her face went red with anger. She said something to her parents and started walking toward me. "Harold, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to watch my grandson's school play." "You can't be here." "Jessica, this is a public event at a public school. I have every right to be here." "I don't want you here. This isn't about what you want. It's about Tommy." "Harold, if you don't leave, I'm going to call security." "Go ahead. Call security and explain to them why a grandfather can't watch his grandson's school play. I'm sure that will go over well with all these other parents." Jessica looked around and realized that people were starting to stare at us. She was making a scene at her son's school event, which was exactly what she didn't want to do. "This isn't over," she hissed, and walked back to her seat. The play started a few minutes later. It was a simple story about forest animals, and Tommy played a tree in the background. He didn't have any lines, but he stood there in his brown costume with green paper leaves, looking serious and proud. When the play ended and the kids came out to take their bows, Tommy spotted me in the back. His face lit up with the biggest smile I'd seen in months. He waved at me, and I waved back. After the play, parents and kids were mingling in the hallway. I waited to see if Tommy would come over to me, but Jessica quickly grabbed him and headed for the exit. As they passed by me, Tommy broke free from his mother's hand and ran over to me. "Grandpa Harold, you came." "Of course I came, buddy. You were the best tree in the whole forest. Did you see me? I didn't move at all, even when Billy the squirrel bumped into me. I saw you. You were perfect." Jessica appeared beside us. "Tommy, we need to go. But I want to talk to Grandpa Harold." "We need to go now." "Mommy, why can't Grandpa Harold come to dinner with us?" Because we have plans." "What plans?" "Tommy, get your backpack. We're leaving." Tommy looked confused and sad, but he obeyed his mother. As they walked away, he turned back and waved at me. "Bye, Grandpa Harold." "Bye, Tommy, I love you." Several other parents had witnessed this exchange, and I could see them whispering to each other. It was obvious to anyone watching that Jessica was deliberately keeping a loving grandfather away from his grandson for no good reason. The next week, Robert called me with news. "Harold, Jessica's lawyer called. They want to settle." "Settle what?" "The will contest. They're willing to drop their challenge to the will if you agree to certain conditions." "What conditions?" "They want you to agree to limited visitation with Tommy. 1 supervised visit per month for 2 hours at a location of Jessica's choosing." "Supervised? Like I'm some kind of criminal?" "That's what they're proposing." "And what do I get in return?" "You get the tools and baseball cards that David left you, and you get to see Tommy once a month." "Robert, that's not enough. Tommy is my grandson. I should be able to see him whenever I want, within reason." "I agree, Harold, but this might be the best deal we can get without going to trial." "What happens if we go to trial?" "We'll probably win the will contest, but the grandparents' rights case is much harder. We might end up with no guaranteed visitation at all. So my choices are to accept 1 supervised visit per month or risk getting nothing." That's about the size of it. I thought about it for several days. 1 visit per month wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. And maybe over time, I could build a relationship with Tommy that would make Jessica more comfortable with increased visitation. "Robert, I'll take the deal. But I want it in writing that the visits will be unsupervised after 6 months if there are no problems." "I'll see what I can do." The settlement was finalized a month later. I got David's tools and baseball cards, and I got the right to see Tommy for 2 hours on the second Saturday of every month, with visits to be supervised by a neutral third party for the first 6 months. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was a start. The first supervised visit took place at a community center. The supervisor was a social worker named Mrs. Chen, a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in family reunification cases. When Tommy arrived with Jessica, he ran straight to me. "Grandpa Harold, Mommy said I get to spend time with you." "That's right, buddy. We get to hang out for 2 hours. What are we going to do?" "Whatever you want to do." We spent those 2 hours playing board games, reading books, and talking. Tommy told me about school, about his friends, about a new bike he wanted for his birthday. I told him stories about his father when David was Tommy's age. "Daddy was really like me when he was little?" Tommy asked. "Just like you. He loved baseball, he was good at math, he asked a million questions about everything." "Do I look like Daddy?" "You look exactly like Daddy did when he was 6 years old." "Mommy doesn't like to talk about Daddy." "Why not?" "She gets sad. She cries sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking." It's okay for Mommy to be sad, Tommy. She misses Daddy very much. Do you miss Daddy? Every day, buddy. But you know what makes me feel better? What? Spending time with you. Because when I look at you, I see Daddy, and it makes me happy to remember all the good times we had together. Mrs. Chen observed our interaction and took notes. At the end of the 2 hours, she spoke with me privately. Mr. Thompson, you have a wonderful relationship with your grandson. Thank you, I've missed him so much. It shows, and it's clear that he's missed you too. What happens now? I'll file a report with the court recommending that these visits continue. Based on what I've seen today, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't become unsupervised after the 6-month period. Over the next few months, Tommy and I had our monthly visits. Each time he seemed happier to see me and more reluctant to leave. We developed routines and inside jokes. I started bringing him small gifts, not expensive things, just little tokens that reminded me of him during the month between visits. Mrs. Chen continued to observe and file positive reports. She noted that Tommy was well adjusted, that our relationship was healthy and loving, and that there were no signs of any inappropriate behavior on my part. After the 4th visit, Mrs. Chen pulled me aside. Mr. Thompson, I'm going to recommend to the court that your visits become unsupervised immediately, rather than waiting for the full 6 months. Really? Why? Because it's clear that you pose no risk to Tommy, and because I think the supervision is actually interfering with your ability to bond with him. You're both a little self-conscious with me watching and taking notes. That would be wonderful. I'm also going to recommend that the visits be increased to twice per month, for 4 hours each time. Mrs. Chen, I can't thank you enough. Don't thank me, Mr. Thompson. Thank yourself for being a loving grandfather who put his grandson's needs first, even when it was difficult. The court approved Mrs. Chen's recommendations, and starting with the 5th month, I began having unsupervised visits with Tommy twice a month. The first unsupervised visit was magical. Without Mrs. Chen there taking notes, Tommy and I were able to relax and just enjoy each other's company. I took him to the park, we got ice cream, we went to my house, and I showed him David's workshop. These are Daddy's tools, Tommy asked, running his hands over the workbench. They were Daddy's tools, now they're mine. But someday, when you're older, I'll teach you how to use them, just like I taught your daddy. Really? Really? Your daddy learned how to fix things in this workshop. He built his first birdhouse right here on this workbench. Can I build a birdhouse? When you're a little older, we'll build one together. Tommy spent an hour exploring the workshop, asking questions about every tool, every project, every piece of equipment. It was like watching David all over again. As the months went by, my relationship with Tommy grew stronger. He started calling me more often, usually when Jessica was busy or distracted. He would tell me about school, about his friends, about things that were bothering him. One day, about 8 months after the settlement, Tommy called me crying. "Grandpa Harold, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong, buddy?" "Mommy has a boyfriend." "Oh, how do you feel about that?" "I don't like him. His name is Brad, and he's mean to me." "Mean how?" "He tells me to be quiet all the time. He says I ask too many questions. He doesn't like it when I talk about Daddy." "Have you told Mommy how you feel?" "I tried, but she gets mad. She says I need to give Brad a chance." "Tommy, has Brad ever hurt you? Has he hit you or touched you in a way that made you uncomfortable?" "No, he just yells at me. And he told Mommy that she spoils me too much." "Tommy, I want you to know that you can always call me if you need to talk, okay? And if Brad ever does anything that scares you or hurts you, you tell me right away." "Okay, Grandpa Harold. I wish Daddy was still here." "I wish he was too, buddy. But even though Daddy isn't here, you still have people who love you very much." "Like you?" "Like me. I love you more than anything in the world, Tommy." Over the next few weeks, Tommy told me more about Brad. He was a divorced father of 2 who worked in sales. He had moved in with Jessica and Tommy about a month earlier. According to Tommy, Brad was trying to establish himself as the man of the house and didn't appreciate Tommy's attachment to his deceased father's memory. I was concerned, but I knew I had to be careful. If I overreacted or tried to interfere in Jessica's personal life, I could lose my visitation rights altogether. But then Tommy told me something that changed everything. "Grandpa Harold, Brad said something about you." "What did he say?" "He said that Mommy doesn't need you anymore because now she has him. He said that you're just a sad old man who can't let go of the past." "How did that make you feel?" Mad. I told him that you're not sad. You're the best grandpa in the world. And I told him that I don't want to let go of Daddy. What did Brad say then? He said that I need to grow up and accept that Daddy is gone. He said that talking about Daddy all the time is unhealthy. Tommy, talking about Daddy isn't unhealthy. Daddy was your father, and it's good for you to remember him and talk about him. That's what I think too. But Brad says I'm living in the past. Tommy, you're 6 years old. You're not living in the past. You're trying to understand your past so you can move forward. That's what healthy people do. A few days later, Jessica called me. Harold, we need to talk. About what? About Tommy. About these visits. What about them? I think they need to stop. Jessica, we have a court order. I have the right to see Tommy twice a month. I know, but things have changed. What's changed? I'm in a serious relationship now. Brad and I are talking about getting married. Congratulations, what does that have to do with my visits with Tommy? Harold, Brad is going to be Tommy's stepfather. He's going to be the male role model in Tommy's life. Having you around is confusing for Tommy. Confusing how? Tommy is having trouble accepting Brad because he's still so attached to David's memory and to you. Brad thinks it would be better if Tommy could focus on building a relationship with him without the distraction of constant reminders of his biological father. Jessica, David isn't a distraction. He's Tommy's father. David is dead, Harold. Brad is alive and he's here and he wants to be a father to Tommy. That's great, Jessica. Tommy can have a stepfather and still remember his biological father. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. Brad doesn't see it that way. Well, Brad doesn't get to make decisions about my relationship with my grandson. Actually, Harold, he does. If we get married, he'll be Tommy's legal stepfather, and he'll have a say in what's best for Tommy. Jessica, are you seriously considering cutting me out of Tommy's life because your boyfriend doesn't like me? I'm considering what's best for my family. I'm Tommy's family too. You're David's family. David is gone. Tommy is David's son. That makes him my family forever. Harold, I'm not going to argue with you about this. I'm just giving you a heads up that things are going to change. What kind of changes? I don't know yet. But Brad has some strong feelings about the situation. Jessica, let me ask you something. Is Tommy happy with these visits? That's not the point. It's exactly the point. Is Tommy happy when he spends time with me? Yes, but does he talk about me positively? Yes, but do I do anything during these visits that's harmful to Tommy in any way? No, but then why would you even consider taking them away from him? Because Brad thinks it's unhealthy for Tommy to be so focused on the past. Jessica, I'm not the past. I'm Tommy's present and his future. I'm the person who's going to tell him stories about his father when he's older. I'm the person who's going to teach him how to use David's tools. I'm the person who's going to make sure he knows where he comes from. Brad can do all of those things. Brad didn't know David. Brad can't tell Tommy what his father was like as a child, what his dreams were, what kind of man he was. Only I can do that. Harold, I have to go, but I wanted you to know that things might be changing soon. After Jessica hung up, I called Robert immediately. Robert, I think Jessica is going to try to terminate my visitation rights. I told him about the conversation, about Brad, about the pressure Tommy was under to move on from his father's memory. Harold, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Jessica is using her new relationship as an excuse to cut you out completely. Can she do that? She can try. If she petitions the court to modify the visitation order, we'll have to fight it. What are our chances? Better than they were before. We now have 8 months of successful visits, positive reports from Mrs. Chen, and evidence that Tommy benefits from his relationship with you. But if Jessica remarries, the court might be more sympathetic to her argument that Tommy needs to focus on his new family structure. Robert, I can't lose Tommy. He's all I have left of David. I know, Harold, and we're going to fight this with everything we have. 2 weeks later, I got the papers. Jessica was petitioning the court to terminate my visitation rights on the grounds that they were interfering with Tommy's adjustment to his new family situation and preventing him from forming a healthy relationship with his prospective stepfather. The petition was full of lies and distortions. It claimed that I was obsessed with the past and that I was filling Tommy's head with unrealistic expectations about his deceased father. It claimed that Tommy was confused and conflicted because of my influence, and that he was unable to accept his mother's new relationship because I was encouraging him to cling to his father's memory. Reading those papers was like being punched in the stomach. Jessica was painting me as some kind of harmful influence on my own grandson when all I had ever done was love him and try to keep his father's memory alive. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks later. Robert and I spent those weeks preparing our defense, gathering evidence and lining up witnesses. Mrs. Chen agreed to testify on my behalf. She would tell the court about the positive nature of my relationship with Tommy and the benefits he derived from our visits. Tommy's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, also agreed to testify. She would tell the court that Tommy was a well-adjusted child who spoke positively about both his mother and his grandfather, and that there were no signs of the confusion and conflict that Jessica claimed. We also had phone records showing that Tommy called me regularly, and we had cards and drawings that Tommy had made for me, demonstrating the loving nature of our relationship. But our strongest piece of evidence was David's letter. In that letter, David had specifically asked me to watch out for Tommy and to make sure he knew about his father's family. The letter showed that David had anticipated this exact situation and had wanted me to be part of Tommy's life. The day of the hearing arrived. I sat in the courtroom with Robert, watching as Jessica and Brad entered with their lawyer. Brad was a tall, thin man in his 40s, with a smug expression that made me dislike him immediately. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Williams. She had a reputation for being fair but tough, and for putting children's interests above all other considerations. Jessica's lawyer spoke first, painting me as an old man who couldn't accept his son's death and who was interfering with Tommy's ability to move forward with his life. He claimed that my visits were traumatizing Tommy and preventing him from bonding with Brad. Then Robert spoke, presenting our evidence and our witnesses. Mrs. Chen testified about the positive nature of my relationship with Tommy. Mrs. Rodriguez testified that Tommy showed no signs of trauma or confusion related to our visits. But the most powerful moment came when Robert read David's letter aloud in court. As he read David's words about wanting me to watch out for Tommy and teach him about his father's family, I saw tears in Judge Williams' eyes. After all the testimony was presented, Judge Williams called for a recess to review the evidence. We waited in the hallway for 2 hours, not knowing what she would decide. Finally, we were called back into the courtroom. "I've reviewed all the evidence in this case," Judge Williams said, "and I've considered the testimony of all the witnesses. This is a difficult situation involving a child who has lost his father and a family that is trying to rebuild after a tragedy." My heart was pounding. However, I find no evidence that Mr. Thompson's visits with his grandson are harmful to the child in any way. To the contrary, the evidence shows that Tommy benefits from these visits and that he has a loving, healthy relationship with his grandfather. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Furthermore, I am troubled by the petitioner's apparent desire to erase the child's connection to his deceased father's family. A child who has lost a parent needs more love and support, not less. The court finds that it is in Tommy's best interest to maintain his relationship with his paternal grandfather. Jessica's face went white. Brad looked angry. Therefore, the petition to terminate visitation is denied. Mr. Thompson's visitation rights will continue as previously ordered. However, I am modifying the order to increase visitation to every other weekend, from Friday evening to Sunday evening, to better accommodate the child's need for a relationship with his grandfather. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only had I kept my visitation rights, but they had been expanded. Furthermore, Judge Williams continued, I am ordering that both parties attend family counseling to help facilitate a healthy co-parenting relationship that serves the child's best interests. The child should not be put in the position of choosing between his grandfather and his mother's boyfriend. Your Honor, Jessica's lawyer said, my client intends to remarry. Doesn't that change the family dynamic? Remarriage doesn't erase a child's history or his right to know his extended family, Judge Williams replied firmly. If anything, it makes it more important to ensure that the child maintains connections to his roots. This court will not allow a step-parent to replace a child's relationship with his biological family. After the hearing, Robert and I walked out of the courthouse together. Harold, that was a complete victory. You not only kept your visitation rights, you got more time with Tommy. I can't believe it. I was so afraid I was going to lose him. Judge Williams saw right through Jessica's arguments. It was clear that this was about Brad's jealousy, not about Tommy's welfare. What happens now? Now you get to be a grandfather. Every other weekend, Tommy is yours. That Friday, I picked up Tommy for our first weekend visit. He was so excited he could barely contain himself. "Grandpa Harold, Mommy said I get to stay with you for the whole weekend." "That's right, buddy. We have 2 whole days together." "What are we going to do?" "Whatever you want to do. We can work in the workshop, we can go to the park, we can look at your dad's baseball cards, we can cook dinner together, it's up to you." "Can we do all of those things?" "We can try." That weekend was one of the best of my life. Tommy and I had time to really bond, to develop the kind of relationship that can only come from extended time together. We cooked pancakes for breakfast. We worked on a simple woodworking project in David's workshop. We looked through photo albums, and I told him stories about his father. "Grandpa Harold," Tommy said as we were looking at pictures of David as a child, "I wish I could have known Daddy when he was little like me." "You know what, Tommy? In a way you do know Daddy when he was little." "How?" "Because you're just like he was. You ask the same kinds of questions, you like the same kinds of things. You even make the same faces when you're thinking hard about something." "Really? Really? When I look at you, it's like seeing your daddy all over again." "Is that good or bad?" "It's wonderful, Tommy. It means that even though Daddy isn't here anymore, part of him lives on in you. Will you tell me more stories about Daddy?" "I'll tell you every story I can remember, buddy. That's what grandpas are for." Over the next few months, our weekend visits became the highlight of both our lives. Tommy would call me during the week to plan what we were going to do, and I would spend the weekdays preparing activities and thinking of new stories to tell him. I taught him how to use some of the simpler tools in David's workshop. We built a birdhouse together, just like David and I had done when David was Tommy's age. I showed him David's baseball card collection and taught him about the players and the statistics. Most importantly, I told him about his father. I told him about David's childhood, his dreams, his accomplishments, his love for Tommy and Jessica. I made sure Tommy understood that his father had been a good man who loved his family and worked hard to provide for them. "Grandpa Harold," Tommy said one day, "Brad says that talking about Daddy so much isn't healthy. What do you think, Tommy?" "I think it makes me feel good to know about Daddy. It makes me feel like he's still part of my life, even though he's not here." "That's exactly right, buddy. Remembering people we love isn't unhealthy. It's how we keep them alive in our hearts. Brad says I should call him Dad. How do you feel about that?" "I don't want to. I already have a dad. His name is David, and even though he's in heaven, he's still my dad. Tommy, you don't have to call Brad anything you don't want to call him. If Brad is nice to you and makes your mom happy, you can respect him and be polite to him. But you don't have to pretend he's your father. What should I call him? Whatever feels right to you. Brad or Mr. Brad or whatever you're comfortable with. Grandpa Harold, can I ask you something?" "You can ask me anything." "Do you think Daddy would like Brad?" That was a tough question. I didn't want to badmouth Brad to Tommy, but I also didn't want to lie. "Tommy, I think your daddy would want your mom to be happy. If Brad makes her happy and treats you well, then your daddy would probably be okay with him. But what if Brad doesn't treat me well?" "What do you mean?" "Sometimes Brad gets really mad at me for little things, like if I leave my toys out, or if I'm too loud, or if I talk about Daddy." "Has Brad ever hit you or hurt you?" "No, but he yells a lot, and he told Mommy that I'm spoiled and that she needs to be stricter with me." "Tommy, how does that make you feel?" "Scared and sad. I try to be good, but Brad doesn't seem to like me very much." "Tommy, listen to me. You are a good boy. You're smart and kind and funny, and any man would be lucky to have you as a stepson. If Brad doesn't see that, that's his problem, not yours." "But what if he makes Mommy choose between him and me?" "Tommy, your Mommy loves you more than anything in the world. She would never choose anyone over you." "I hope not." That conversation worried me. It sounded like Brad was becoming increasingly controlling, and that Tommy was walking on eggshells around him. But I knew I had to be careful about how I handled the situation. If I pushed too hard or interfered too much, I could make things worse for Tommy. A few weeks later, Tommy came to my house with a black eye. "Tommy, what happened to your face?" "I fell off my bike." "How did you fall off your bike?" "I was riding in the driveway and I hit a rock." Something about his story didn't ring true. Tommy was a good bike rider, and he'd been riding for 2 years without any serious accidents. "Tommy, are you sure that's what happened?" "Yes, Grandpa Harold. Because if someone hurt you, you can tell me. I won't get mad and I'll help you. Nobody hurt me. I just fell off my bike. But throughout the weekend I noticed other things. Tommy was more subdued than usual. He seemed nervous, like he was afraid of doing something wrong. When I asked him if he wanted to call his mom to say goodnight, he said no. Don't you want to talk to Mommy? She's probably busy with Brad. Tommy, I'm sure she's never too busy to talk to you. She is now. Brad says she needs to focus on their relationship. What does that mean? It means I'm not supposed to bother them when they're together. Tommy, you're not a bother, you're her son. Brad says I need to learn to be more independent. How old does Brad think you should be when you learn to be independent? I don't know, he just says I'm too clingy. Tommy, you're 6 years old. 6-year-olds are supposed to need their moms. That's what I think too. On Sunday, when it was time to take Tommy home, he didn't want to go. Can I stay with you, Grandpa Harold? You know you can't, buddy. You have school tomorrow and your mom is expecting you. I don't want to go home. Why not? Because Brad will be there and he doesn't like me. Tommy, I'm sure Brad likes you. Maybe he just doesn't know how to show it. No, Grandpa Harold, he really doesn't like me. He told Mommy that I remind him too much of Daddy and that it makes him uncomfortable. He said that? I heard him talking to Mommy when they thought I was asleep. What else did he say? He said that Mommy needs to make a choice between the past and the future. He said that as long as I keep talking about Daddy and spending time with you, we'll never be a real family. And what did Mommy say? She said she needed time to think about it. My heart sank. It sounded like Brad was escalating his campaign to erase David's memory and remove me from Tommy's life. Tommy, no matter what happens, I want you to know that I love you and I'm always going to be here for you. Even if Mommy says I can't see you anymore. Even then, I'll find a way to be part of your life, I promise. Grandpa Harold, I'm scared. What are you scared of? I'm scared that Brad is going to make Mommy send me away. Tommy, your Mommy would never send you away. You're her son, and she loves you. But what if Brad makes her choose? Then she'll choose you, buddy. Moms always choose their children. I hope so. When I dropped Tommy off at home, Jessica was waiting at the door. She looked tired and stressed. How was your weekend? She asked Tommy. Good. Grandpa Harold taught me how to use a screwdriver. That's nice. Go get ready for your bath. After Tommy went inside, Jessica lingered at the door. Harold, we need to talk. About what? About this situation. About Tommy. What about Tommy? He's having a hard time adjusting to Brad. He's resistant to the idea of us becoming a family. Jessica, Tommy just lost his father a year ago. It's natural for him to have trouble accepting a new man in his life. But it's been a year, Harold. At some point, he needs to move forward. He's 6 years old, Jessica. He's not ready to move forward from his father's death. Brad thinks that Tommy's attachment to David's memory is unhealthy. He thinks that as long as Tommy keeps focusing on the past, he'll never be able to accept our new family. Jessica, remembering his father isn't unhealthy. It's normal and necessary. But it's interfering with Tommy's ability to bond with Brad. Maybe the problem isn't Tommy's memory of David. Maybe the problem is Brad's jealousy of a dead man. That's not fair, Harold. Isn't it? Brad is threatened by a 6-year-old's love for his deceased father. What does that tell you about Brad? It tells me that Brad wants to be a father to Tommy, and he can't do that if Tommy won't let go of David. Jessica, Tommy doesn't have to let go of David to accept Brad. He can love his father's memory and still have a relationship with his stepfather. Brad doesn't see it that way. Then Brad is wrong. Harold, Brad and I are getting married next month. Congratulations. After we're married, things are going to have to change. What kind of changes? Brad doesn't think it's appropriate for Tommy to spend so much time with you. He thinks it's confusing for Tommy to have 2 male role models. I'm not trying to be Tommy's father, Jessica. I'm trying to be his grandfather. But Brad is going to be his father now. No, Jessica. Brad is going to be his stepfather. David will always be his father. David is dead, Harold. That doesn't make him less of a father. Harold, I'm trying to build a new life for me and Tommy. I need you to respect that. I do respect that, Jessica, but I also need you to respect Tommy's need to know his father's family. I think we should reduce your visitation to once a month. Jessica, we just went through a court hearing about this. The judge increased my visitation, not decreased it. That was before I was getting remarried. Getting remarried doesn't change the court order. We'll see about that. Jessica, are you really going to put Tommy through another court battle? I'm going to do what's best for my family. Tommy is my family too. Not anymore, Harold. After I marry Brad, Tommy's family will be me, Brad, and Brad's children. What about Tommy's feelings? What about what he wants? Tommy is 6 years old. He doesn't know what he wants. He knows he loves his grandfather. He knows he wants to remember his father. Harold, I'm not going to argue with you about this. Things are going to change whether you like it or not. She went inside and closed the door, leaving me standing on the porch feeling like I'd just been punched in the gut. That night, I called Robert. Robert, I think Jessica is going to try to modify the visitation order again. I told him about the conversation, about the upcoming marriage, about Brad's demands that Tommy move forward from his father's memory. Harold, she can try to modify the order, but she'll need to show a significant change in circumstances. Just getting remarried isn't enough. What if she claims that Tommy is having behavioral problems because of the visitation? Then we'll need evidence to contradict that claim. How is Tommy doing in school? Any problems there? No, his teacher says he's doing fine. He's a good student, well-behaved, gets along with other kids. Good. That will help our case if it comes to that. Robert, I'm worried about Tommy. He seems scared of Brad and he's starting to withdraw. Scared how? He came to my house with a black eye this weekend. He said he fell off his bike, but I'm not sure I believe him. Harold, that's a serious allegation. Do you have any evidence that Brad is abusing Tommy? No concrete evidence, just a feeling that something isn't right. Feelings aren't enough in court. If you suspect abuse, you need to document everything. Take pictures, keep records of what Tommy tells you, watch for patterns. And if I find evidence of abuse, then we call Child Protective Services immediately. Over the next few weeks, I watched Tommy carefully during our visits. He seemed increasingly anxious and withdrawn. He jumped at loud noises, he was reluctant to talk about what happened at home during the week, and he seemed to be walking on eggshells. Tommy, are you okay? You seem worried about something. I'm okay, Grandpa Harold. You know you can tell me anything, right? I know. Is everything okay at home? Yeah. How are things with Brad? Okay. Tommy, you're giving me very short answers. Usually you talk my ear off. I'm just tired. Are you sleeping okay? Sometimes Brad and Mommy fight at night. It's loud. What do they fight about? Me, mostly. What about you? Brad says I'm disrespectful. He says I don't listen to him. Do you try to listen to him? I try, but sometimes I forget, and sometimes I don't understand what he wants me to do. What happens when you don't listen or when you forget? Brad gets really mad. He yells a lot. Does he ever do anything besides yell? Tommy was quiet for a long time. Tommy? Sometimes he grabs my arm really tight when he's mad. Does that hurt? Yeah. And sometimes he pushes me. Pushes you how? Like if I'm in his way, he'll push me out of the way. Not hard, but it still hurts my feelings. Tommy, has Brad ever hit you? Not really hit, but sometimes he'll flick me on the head if I'm not paying attention. How does that make you feel? Scared and sad. I don't like it when people are mad at me. Tommy, you don't deserve to be treated that way. You're a good boy and no one should be grabbing you or pushing you or flicking you. But Brad says I need to learn respect. Tommy, there's a difference between teaching respect and being mean. A grown-up can teach you respect without hurting you or scaring you. Really? Really? When your daddy was little, I taught him respect, but I never grabbed him or pushed him or flicked him. How did you teach Daddy respect? By talking to him, by explaining why certain behaviors were important, by setting clear rules and consequences, but I never hurt him or scared him. I wish Brad was more like you. Tommy, I want you to promise me something. What? If Brad ever hurts you or if you ever feel unsafe, I want you to call me right away, even if it's the middle of the night. Okay. And if you can't call me, I want you to tell a teacher at school or a neighbor or any grown-up you trust. Okay, Grandpa Harold. You're not tattling when you tell someone that a grown-up is hurting you. You're protecting yourself, and that's always okay. That conversation confirmed my worst fears. Brad was escalating from emotional abuse to physical abuse, and Tommy was too young and too scared to know how to handle it. I started documenting everything. I took pictures of Tommy when he came to my house, noting any bruises or marks. I wrote down everything he told me about Brad's behavior. I kept a detailed log of his emotional state during our visits. 2 weeks later, Tommy came to my house with fingerprint bruises on his upper arm. Tommy, what happened to your arm? I don't remember. Tommy, these look like fingerprints. Did someone grab your arm? He started crying. Tommy, it's okay, you're safe here, just tell me what happened. Brad got mad at me because I spilled juice on the couch. He grabbed my arm and pulled me to my room. Did he say anything when he grabbed you? He said I was clumsy and that I needed to be more careful. Tommy, did Mommy see this happen? She was in the kitchen, but I think she heard Brad yelling. Did you tell Mommy that Brad hurt your arm? No. Brad said that if I told on him, he would make sure I couldn't see you anymore. Tommy, Brad can't keep you from seeing me. We have a court order that says you get to visit me. But what if he makes Mommy change her mind? Tommy, even if Mommy wanted to change the court order, she would have to go to a judge, and the judge would want to know why. If the judge found out that Brad was hurting you, Brad would be in big trouble. Really? Really? Grown-ups aren't allowed to hurt children even if they're mad. Grandpa Harold, I don't want to go home. I know, buddy, but you have to go home. However, I'm going to make sure that you're safe. How? I'm going to talk to some people who can help protect you. That night, after I took Tommy home, I called Robert. Robert, I have evidence that Brad is physically abusing Tommy. I told him about the fingerprint bruises, about Tommy's account of what happened, about Brad's threat to keep Tommy away from me if he told anyone. Harold, this is exactly what we needed. Physical evidence of abuse changes everything. What should I do? First, we're going to file a report with Child Protective Services. They'll investigate and determine whether Tommy is safe in that home. What happens then? If CPS finds evidence of abuse, they can remove Tommy from the home temporarily, or they can require Brad to leave the home, or they can mandate supervision and counseling. And what about my visitation? If anything, this will strengthen your case for increased visitation. The court will want Tommy to have a safe, stable relationship with a family member who isn't abusing him. I'm scared, Robert. What if this makes things worse for Tommy? Harold, things are already bad for Tommy. A 6-year-old child is being physically abused by his mother's boyfriend. It can't get much worse than that. You're right. Let's file the report. The next morning, Robert and I went to the Child Protective Services office. We filed a formal complaint against Brad, providing photographs of Tommy's bruises, my detailed notes about his behavior and statements, and a timeline of the escalating abuse. The CPS caseworker, Ms. Patricia Johnson, was an experienced woman in her 40s who specialized in child abuse cases. Mr. Thompson, these are serious allegations. We'll need to investigate immediately. What does that involve? We'll interview Tommy at school, away from his mother and Brad. We'll also interview Jessica and Brad separately. If we find evidence of abuse, we'll take immediate action to protect Tommy. How long does the investigation take? Initial findings within 48 hours. Full investigation within 30 days. And what happens to Tommy in the meantime? If we determine that he's in immediate danger, we can remove him from the home temporarily. Otherwise, we'll monitor the situation closely. 2 days later, Ms. Johnson called me. Mr. Thompson, we've completed our initial investigation. What did you find? We found credible evidence that Tommy has been physically abused by Brad Morrison. Tommy confirmed your account of the incident with the juice spill, and he disclosed additional incidents of physical abuse. What kind of additional incidents? Brad has been grabbing Tommy, pushing him, and flicking him on the head on a regular basis. Tommy also reported that Brad has threatened him with more severe punishment if he tells anyone about the abuse. What happens now? We're requiring Brad to move out of the home immediately. He's not allowed to have any unsupervised contact with Tommy until he completes anger management counseling and parenting classes. And Jessica? Jessica was genuinely shocked by the allegations. She said she knew Brad was strict with Tommy, but she didn't realize he was being physical. She's agreed to cooperate fully with our investigation and our requirements. Is Tommy safe now? Tommy is safe. Brad moved out yesterday, and we'll be monitoring the situation closely. Ms. Johnson, thank you for taking this seriously and acting so quickly. Mr. Thompson, thank you for reporting this. Too many people see signs of abuse and don't speak up. You may have saved Tommy from years of escalating abuse. That weekend, when Tommy came for his visit, he was like a different child. He was relaxed, talkative, and happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. Grandpa Harold, Brad moved out. How do you feel about that? Happy, I don't have to be scared anymore. Were you scared a lot? Every day. I never knew when Brad was going to get mad at me. And now I can just be a kid again. Tommy, did the lady from CPS talk to you? Yeah, Ms. Johnson. She was really nice. She said that what Brad did to me was wrong. It was wrong, Tommy. Grown-ups should never hurt children. She said that I was brave for telling the truth. You were very brave, buddy. Grandpa Harold, are you the one who told Ms. Johnson about Brad? Yes, I am. Are you mad at me? No, I'm happy you told. I wanted to tell someone, but I was scared. You never have to be scared to tell me anything, Tommy. I'm always going to protect you. I know. That's why you're the best grandpa in the world. Over the next few weeks, Jessica and I had several conversations about what had happened. She was genuinely remorseful about not recognizing the signs of abuse sooner. Harold, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Brad was hurting Tommy. Jessica, abusers are often very good at hiding their behavior from other adults. But I should have seen the signs. I should have protected my son. You're protecting him now. That's what matters. Harold, I owe you an apology for more than just the Brad situation. What do you mean? I've been trying to push you out of Tommy's life, and that was wrong. Tommy needs his grandfather, especially now. Jessica, I understand that you were trying to build a new life. I don't blame you for that. But I was letting Brad influence my decisions about Tommy, and that was wrong. Tommy's relationship with you is important, and I should have protected that. What matters now is that we work together to help Tommy heal from this experience. Harold, would you consider increasing your visitation? Tommy could probably use more stability right now, and you're the most stable person in his life. I'd love to spend more time with Tommy, if that's what he wants. It's definitely what he wants, and it's what I want too. We worked out an arrangement where Tommy would spend every weekend with me, plus one evening during the week. It wasn't a formal court order, just an agreement between two people who loved the same little boy. Over the next few months, Tommy gradually healed from his experience with Brad. He became more confident, more outgoing, more like the happy child he had been before Brad entered his life. Grandpa Harold, he said one day while we were working in the workshop, I'm glad Daddy left me these tools. Why's that, buddy? Because now I get to learn how to use them with you, just like Daddy did. That's right. And someday when you're older, you'll teach your children how to use them. Will you tell me more stories about Daddy while we work? I'll tell you every story I can remember. Grandpa Harold? Yeah, buddy. I think Daddy would be happy that you're taking care of me. I think so too, Tommy. I think Daddy is looking down from heaven and smiling because he knows you're safe and loved. Do you think Daddy knows about Brad? I think Daddy knows everything that happens to you, and I think he's proud of you for being so brave. I wasn't very brave. I was scared all the time. Tommy, being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. Being brave means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Like telling Ms. Johnson the truth? Exactly like that. 6 months after Brad moved out, Jessica started dating again. But this time she was much more careful about who she brought into Tommy's life. Harold, I want you to meet someone. Oh? His name is Michael. He's a teacher, and he has 2 kids of his own from his previous marriage. How does Tommy feel about him? Tommy likes him. Michael is very patient with children, and he understands that Tommy has been through a lot. Does Michael have any problem with Tommy's relationship with me? Just the opposite. Michael thinks it's wonderful that Tommy has such a strong relationship with his grandfather. He said that children can never have too many people who love them. He sounds like a good man. He is. And Harold, I want you to know that I'll never again let anyone come between Tommy and his family. I appreciate that, Jessica. Tommy has already lost his father. I'm not going to let him lose his grandfather, too. A year later, Jessica and Michael got married. But this time the wedding was different. Tommy was the ring bearer, and I was invited to sit in the front row with family. Michael made it clear from the beginning that he wasn't trying to replace David, but rather to add to Tommy's life. Mr. Thompson, Michael said to me at the wedding reception, I want you to know that I have tremendous respect for the relationship you have with Tommy. Thank you, Michael, and please call me Harold. Harold, I want you to know that I'm not trying to be Tommy's father. He already has a father, even though David isn't here anymore. I appreciate that, Michael. I'm hoping to be a positive male role model in Tommy's life, but I understand that you're his grandfather, and that relationship is irreplaceable. Michael, any man who understands that is someone I can respect and work with. I hope we can be partners in helping Tommy grow up to be the kind of man his father would be proud of. I'd like that very much. And that's exactly what happened. Michael became a wonderful stepfather to Tommy, but he never tried to erase David's memory or interfere with Tommy's relationship with me. Instead, he encouraged both. "Tommy," I heard Michael say one day, "your grandfather has so many great stories about your dad. You should ask him to tell you about the time your dad built his first go-kart." "Really? Daddy built a go-kart?" "He sure did," I said, "and it was the fastest go-kart in the neighborhood. Will you tell me about it, Grandpa Harold?" "I'll tell you the whole story, and maybe this summer we can build a go-kart together. Can Michael help too? If Michael wants to help, he's welcome to join us." "I'd love to help," Michael said. "I've never built a go-kart before." "Then you'll learn something new, just like Tommy." Now, 3 years after David's death, Tommy is 9 years old and thriving. He has a loving mother, a caring stepfather, 2 step-siblings who adore him, and a grandfather who cherishes every moment they spend together. Tommy still misses his father and probably always will, but he's learned that missing someone doesn't mean you can't be happy. He's learned that love doesn't die when people die. And he's learned that families can take many different forms, but what matters most is that the people in your family love and support each other. "Grandpa Harold," Tommy said to me last week, "I'm glad you didn't let Jessica keep me away from you." "What do you mean, buddy?" "I remember when Mommy and Brad didn't want me to see you anymore. I'm glad you fought for me." "Tommy, I'll always fight for you. You're my grandson, and nothing will ever change that. Even when I'm grown up, even when you're grown up, even when you have children of your own. Will you tell my children stories about Daddy? If you want me to, I'll tell them every story I know. I want you to. I want them to know what kind of man their grandfather was. Tommy, your daddy would be so proud of the boy you're becoming." "How do you know?" "Because you're kind and brave and smart and loving. Those are all the things your daddy was and all the things he hoped you would be." "Grandpa Harold." "Yeah, buddy? Thank you for not giving up on me." "Tommy, I could never give up on you. You're the most important thing in my life." "You're the most important thing in my life too, Grandpa Harold. Well, you and Mommy and Michael and my stepbrother and stepsister. That's a lot of important people. I'm lucky, aren't I?" "You're very lucky, Tommy. And so am I." As I sit here now thinking about everything that's happened over the past 3 years, I realize that Jessica was wrong when she said, "Old man, none of this belongs to you. Tommy belongs to me, not in the sense of ownership, but in the sense of family, of love, of connection that can't be broken by death or divorce or remarriage or legal battles. David's tools belong to me, not just because a will says so, but because they represent the bond between a father and son, and now between a grandfather and grandson. David's memory belongs to me and to Tommy and to anyone who loved him. No one can take that away, no matter how hard they try, and the love I have for my grandson belongs to me and to him, and it will last forever." Jessica learned that you can't erase a child's history or replace his family. She learned that children need more love, not less, especially when they've experienced loss. Brad learned that being a stepfather means adding to a child's life, not subtracting from it. He learned that you can't force a child to forget his father, and you shouldn't want to. And I learned that sometimes you have to fight for the people you love, even when it's hard, even when it's expensive, even when it seems hopeless. I learned that being a grandfather isn't just about spoiling your grandchildren and telling them stories. Sometimes it's about protecting them, advocating for them, and making sure they know they're loved unconditionally. Most importantly, I learned that love is stronger than death, stronger than legal documents, stronger than the people who try to tear families apart. Tommy will always be David's son, and David will always be my son, and I will always be Tommy's grandfather. That's not something that can be taken away by anyone, no matter what they say or do. So to anyone listening who might be in a similar situation, I want you to know, don't give up. Fight for your grandchildren, fight for your family, fight for love. Because in the end, love is all that really matters. Love is what lasts. Love is what belongs to you, and no one can take it away. Now tell me, what city are you listening from, and have you ever had to fight for your family? Have you ever had someone try to take away your relationship with someone you love? Because I want you to know that you're not alone. There are grandparents all over the world, fighting these same battles, loving these same children, protecting these same relationships. And we're going to keep fighting. Because that's what love does. Love fights. Love persists. Love endures. And love always wins in the end.